When we speak about righteous people, we usually speak about men that are righteous. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The truth is, women are also righteous. We see concerning Sarah that God says, listen to her voice. What she says, you got to follow. And as Rashi explains, she's a greater prophetess than even Abraham. When it comes to Isaac, Yitzchak, well, Rivka gets the way that Jacob would get the firstborn blessings, whereas Isaac, Yitzchak wanted to give it to Esau. So we see that women in the Bible might even be greater than the men, or in some instances, or in some respects at least, most definitely so. Intriguing. Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zuch Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We begin today the 28th letter. This letter, as the previous one, was about the death of a righteous person. This too is. This is in reference to Rabbi Yitzchak Barditchev, well, the well-known, what we call the lover of Israel, who always saw the positive in everyone. His son, Reb Meir, had passed away. And this is a letter that the Rebbe, Alter Rebbe, wrote to Reb Levi Yitzchak to console. To console. And of course, how does consolation come? Ultimately is by words of inspiration from the Torah. So, we begin with the question in the passing of Miriam. Miriam, the older sister of Moshe and Aaron, of Moses and Aaron. And the question is, why is a passage concerning Miriam's passing adjoined to the laws of the red heifer? The red heifer are laws of someone who becomes impure because they came in contact with a human corpse, and they need to go through a process of cleansing. It takes a week of the red heifer. So the question is, why are the two incidences, or the two things are adjoined one after the other? We have the red heifer, then we have the passing of Miriam in Bamidbar in the book of Numbers. So our sages say, in the Talmud it says, is to teach you that the red heifer affects atonement, right? That we know, because that's what it's to bring a cleansing and atonement, just as the passing of the righteous. So Miriam is righteous, she is passed away, and it is to teach us that the righteous, they affect an atonement. And that's why it's juxtaposed to the red heifer. So ask the Alter Rebbe, based on the teachings of the sages, we need to understand, why is the passing of a righteous, again Miriam being the case in point, why is it in reference to the red heifer? The red heifer is not is prepared and dealt with outside of the three encampments. It's not a sacrifice proper. And only because the Torah calls it a sin offering. But really, it's more of a cleansing of someone who became impure, as opposed to a real sin offering that is done, all of the preparation, all of everything that's done with the sin offering is done inside the temple and on the altar. And it's actual atonement. So if you want to speak that the righteous, when they pass away, they bring atonement, it should be comparable to the sin offering that's brought on the altar that brings atonement. But no, Miriam's fasting is not juxtaposed bringing an offering on the altar of the sin offering. It's juxtaposed to red heifer. Why? So we need to understand the concept of an offering on the altar, what it is, versus what the red heifer is. Okay? So the mystical principle of sacrifice offered on the altar as a sacred Zohar, and also Rabbi Isaac Luria, the Arizal, explain. It is about what we call a feminine elevation from below. Feminine is below, the feminine is down, up. Masculine is up, down. So there needs to be a human initiative down, that's called down, up. That's the feminine waters, as it's called. In other words, there has to be the arousal from within the human, right? Deriving from the animal soul, which derives its vitality from klipas neiga, the admixture of good and evil, right? The animal soul is a mixture of good and bad, right? It's not completely holy like the godly soul. And that animal within us, which by the way was the cause of the sin, and that's why you're bringing now a sin offering on the altar, right? It needs to elevate to the root source of the animal from within. And what's the animal? What is the root source of the animal within us? And as a matter of fact, the root source of all of materiality in this world is the form of the four animals of the celestial chariot, which bears on the throne, as it described in Ezekiel. Right, there's the face of the ox, the face of the eagle, face of the lion, the face of man. Those are the four images that is in Ezekiel's, Yecheskel's divine throne, the chariot throne, that is carried by these four images. So, as a result of the initiative from below, and that initiative in the sense of bringing the offering, right? That's the initiative. For what? The offering for a person who has done a sin. So you're bringing the sin offering. So the initiative is coming from the individual who needs now to bring an atonement for their animal soul that was the cause of their sin. Now, what does that result of that initiative that is what we call feminine waters from below, right? The person bringing the human engagement. So, well, the result of that, there's a reciprocal, reciprocated from above, which called Mein Duchrim, male waters. In other words, the benefactor from above. We elicit divinity from above. That is what in the image over here of Ezekiel, right? We have the four things that are holding up the throne. Holding up the throne is the man on the throne, which that refers to in divine. Sorry, let's back up for a second. So, man on the throne So let's now take that imagery and now put it into Kabbalistic Hasidic jargon or geography. The man on the throne refers to as the male part of the divine, which is the six emotions. The six emotions, and from there it elicits, right, as man elicits from above to below, bringing down atonement from that divine level of the six divine emotions above. And that becomes now that light of God that flows from above to below, that was initiated because of the offering that's being brought from below, right? It becomes now, that flow goes into the world, becomes vested and integrated within it, and that's why the offerings that are brought on the altar are called food for the altar, because it brings down vitality that is ingested within the individual, meaning that divine light is a limited light that it can be incorporated within the individual, and that brings cleansing to the person. Atonement to the individual, right? In other words, it's nourishing the person. That's the idea of a sacrifice, in brief. As opposed to the red heifer. The red heifer is bringing primarily a cleansing to the person who came in contact with a corpse and needs now to be purified. Why do you need to be purified? Because if you want to do any of this service or in the holy temple, you need to be pure from any spiritual impurities. And what is the most impure thing that there could be? Death. The opposite of life. It's the opposite of life. So you need to be cleansed from that. That's what the red heifer is. The red heifer, so as opposed to the sacrifice that's brought, the animal is brought on the altar, which that animal, it represents the animal of me that did the sin, and now has to bring that representative of me on the altar. That's the initiative from below that elicits from above, as we said, the man who's sitting on the throne, right? From below, it's being held up from below by the four corners of the throne that are the four faces, right? The lion, the ox, the eagle, and also man, right? But that's lower sense of man, as opposed to man who's sitting on that throne. So that's holding it up, and now that elicits from above, from the divine attributes of Zoh, of the divine emotions, draws down and brings now, incorporated in the individual, ingested is vitality, giving life, meaning atonement. But when it comes to the red heifer, first what you got to do is you got to take cedar wood and a hyssop, which is a sanctity from above. That's drawing from above. Moreover, you got to place into running water that the ashes of the red heifer are there. And as the Mishnah says, that this process is called Kiddush Mechatos, which means sanctification of the purifying waters. Now, this is Kiddush Elyon, supreme sanctity, which is the idea of dew versus rain. Rain, you have to have a mist, two drops going down, that you have a drop that will drop down as rain, right? You need mist that rises in order to bring down rain. That's reciprocal. That's the idea of the sacrifice on the altar, the sin offering, right? There's your elevation that brings down now a light from above. But here it's not that way. This is reaching to a higher place. This is reaching to a sanctified place above, not merely to the man on the throne, right? Which is 6 divine attributes of God, right? That's what the mystical meaning is. But here it's like dew, D-E-W, right? Doesn't come through mist rising up. It's completely from above, right? There's nothing that elicits, as rain does, is elicited from the mist that rises up. Here, the dew is a vapor that is totally from above. It's, so to speak, spontaneous arousal from above, elicited from above without the human initiative from below. That's the idea of dew, and that's the idea of the red heifer, right? And therefore, Kabbalistic terms, the Zohar calls it Tala de Bulcha, which refers to Chachma, supreme wisdom, the way it is in Erech Anpin, in Keser, in the crown that transcends, just like the crown, right? There's man on the throne, but then there is the crown that is beyond man, right? So metaphorically, there is man, which is an integrated part of the divine, and that is the divine emotions that we elicit when we bring the sin offering. But then there is reaching beyond man, crown, transcends man, transcends meaning divine manner in which you can elicit it. You can't get there, so to speak, through your initiative, right? It's a divine light that has the capability of transforming darkness into light. And that's why it's called sanctification, and that's why it's purifying waters. It's purifying. It's not about atonement as much as it is about cleansing, even though Torah calls it also a sin offering and therefore it brings atonement, but it's really more about cleansing. Cleansing someone who came in contact again with death because they touched it, or in a room of a corpse, or touched the corpse, right? And that makes them impure. That impurity, death is the opposite of life, of course. And only God has a handle on death and life. So therefore, it's not something you can initiate. Even though, of course, you're going through the process yourself of the red heifer and so on, but what the red heifer represents is something that transcended. It's the crown that is beyond, that is something that you cannot kind of get there on your own. It's from above, totally. And all of this came about, in other words, that where did death initiate? By the breaking of the vessels. The primordial vessels in Tohu, in the world of Tohu, when those vessels were broken, there fell sparks into the world. And those sparks need to be extracted. To extract, refine, and elevate the sparks. And that's why the red heifer purifies defilement of someone who contracted defilement that they came in contact with a corpse. Because, as we said, the corpse is the ultimate degree of impurity. Death. Right? You can't get farther, lower than that. In other words, when you're bringing a sin offering, by the way, when you did something inadvertent. You didn't do it willfully. You did it. You didn't realize. You forgot it was Shabbos and you closed the light. Right? You ate something that wasn't kosher. You didn't realize it. It was inadvertent. As we will see. Right? Here we're talking about. Here it's not about your intent. It's not about intent, but it's about a fact. God is the God of life. Death is the opposite. Is the most impure thing there is. Coming in contact with a corpse. So that isn't now klipas noiga, a mixture of good and bad. It's completely impure. Again, and not about the intent over here. Therefore, the sanctification of the purifying waters is drawn from the supreme level of Chachma, the way it's in Erech Anpin in the crown. In other words, it's an illumination of divine light that transcends the world so utterly that it can transform death into life, darkness into light. That's very powerful. And as we will see in tomorrow's class, we will then understand why the righteous, in our instance here, our righteous is Miriam, in her passing, it's juxtaposed to the red heifer, because what that means when a righteous person passes away and how they bring into the world something that cannot be initiated from below, but it's totally from above, that is very transformative, very, totally not intuitive, what we would think. I hope I explained that well. Have any questions? And say hello to Elise, to Diane, Simcha. Folks, tonight I'm starting the JLI course. Really exciting. The course is on Kabbalah. It's a brand new course. Many of you signed up already. Some of you haven't. If you didn't get the email yet, actually, JLI Montreal dot. It won't allow me to. What happened there? It didn't come up. Again. JLI Montreal dot. I made a space there so you won't be able. Okay. Oh, okay. I think. Right. Otherwise it wouldn't come up. So you want to come 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Montreal, New York time. First class tonight. If you're not certain you want to take it, I'll allow you to try the first one on me. All right, but you have to let me know that you're interested. You have to private message me. Don't leave me a message, right? You can send a message to Rabbi at chabad.zichron.com. Zichron. If I don't have your email, then give me your email. That would be smart. John is with us. June is with us. Lorraine is with us. Serach is with us. Those are part of TRC. Get a 50% reduced rate. Jeremy is with us. Susanna is with us. Welcome back, Susanna. Moisha, Madeline, Carmen. Thank you all for the blessings here from everyone. We have Celeste, Vilma, Marcy, Ruthie. Akoy is with us. Bella. Yenta del Venta, Kunye. Ariel. Some others I can't make out too well. Eugenia. Mead. Oh, you have questions on Instagram. I didn't notice it. Did you put question marks first? Is it possible to imitate these procedures without the existence of the temple? Yeah, we do. So offering on the altar today is called prayer, davening, and it does imitate it in many respects. Good question. Bella or Tzivia mentioned, oh man, I'm sorry, difficult to see. The Levi Yitzchak from Barditchev, how does that connect with our teachings today? Try to assume a lot for honor him. Because the teachings today is a letter that the Alter Rebbe wrote to him on the passing of his son, Meir. So he's bringing comfort to Rav Levi Yitzchak on the passing of his son. That's the connection. Thank you. All right, folks. A reminder, tonight, 7:30. JLI, Montreal. You can sign up there. Oops. And join us. Rambam. All right. 7:30. Montreal time. Yes. New York time. All right, folks. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine. Come to you from Chabad and Kadesh, Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege, a pleasure to share with you and Tanya. Have an amazing day. Rambam coming up now. God bless.